Armin had always been a quiet man who loved building things with his own hands. He was an engineer by profession, but his true passion was creating spaces where people could relax and enjoy nature. When he bought a small house near Lakeview Community, he noticed something missing. The lake was beautiful, the trees gave shade, and the air was fresh, but there was no place where families could gather and swim safely. The water of the lake was deep and not always clean near the shore. Many children wanted to swim, but parents were worried. Armin looked at the problem and decided to fix it. He spent months working in his free time, drawing designs and making small models. Finally, he came up with an idea. He would build a pool right beside the lake, using natural stone and fresh filtered water. It would look as if the lake itself had gifted the pool to the people. He worked quietly. Every morning before going to work, he would check the foundation. In the evenings, after his job, he would continue with stones, cement, and pipes. Some neighbors saw him but thought he was only repairing his backyard. He never made noise or disturbed anyone, so people didn't complain. After 1 year of effort, the pool was ready. It was wide and clean, with steps leading down into clear water. A small fountain system kept the water fresh, and Armin even built a wooden deck for families to sit and relax. For him, it was not just a pool. It was a gift to the community, something he wished would bring joy to children and peace to adults. Soon, the pool became popular. Kids from nearby houses came running in the afternoons, splashing and laughing. Parents brought chairs, talked to each other, and enjoyed the safe environment. Even elders liked sitting by the deck, watching the sunset reflect on the water. Everyone appreciated the new spot, but most people did not know who had built it. One person, however, was not happy. Her name was Karen. She lived 2 streets away and was a strict member of the HOA, the Homeowners Association. She believed that nothing should be built or changed without the HOA's written approval. Rules, in her eyes, were more important than joy. She noticed the pool had become a gathering place, and it bothered her. She did not like when people smiled and laughed loudly near the lake. One Saturday afternoon, Armin went to the pool to check the water filters. Children were already swimming, and parents were talking nearby. Everyone greeted him kindly, but only a few knew that he was the builder of the pool. He sat by the edge, testing the water. Just then, Karen walked in. She wore a sharp expression and carried a clipboard in her hand. She looked around at the families enjoying the pool. Then her eyes landed on Armin. "Excuse me," she said loudly, "who gave you permission to be here?" Armin looked up, surprised. "I live here," he replied calmly. "This is community property," Karen snapped. "The HOA has not approved a pool. You cannot just sit here like it belongs to you." Armin stayed quiet for a moment. He didn't like arguments, but he also didn't like unfair treatment. "I'm not harming anyone," he said gently. "People are enjoying the place." Karen's face grew red. She pointed her pen at him. "Rules are rules. If you refuse to leave, I will call the cops right now." Parents around the pool looked uncomfortable. Some whispered to each other, but nobody spoke aloud. Children stopped splashing, sensing the tension. Armin sighed. He did not want drama, but he also knew the truth. This pool was not illegal. He had bought the land, designed the pool, and built it with his own hands. He had all the papers and permits. But Karen did not know any of that. She took out her phone and started dialing. "I'm reporting trespassing," she announced. "The police will handle this." People gasped. No one had ever seen such a scene at the peaceful lake before. Armin folded his arms and sat quietly at the edge of the pool. He decided not to move an inch. If the police came, they would learn the truth. And so, the first spark of conflict was lit. Families watched in silence as Karen, the strict HOA enforcer, stood ready to fight a battle she did not understand. Meanwhile, Armin remained calm, knowing something she could not even imagine. The pool was not a stranger's work. It was his creation. His gift. His pride. And no one, not even Karen, had the right to throw him out of it. The afternoon sun was shining on the water, but the cheerful mood around the pool had disappeared. Children sat on the edge, watching silently, while parents whispered nervously. Karen stood tall, phone in hand, waiting for the police to arrive. She tapped her foot impatiently, her eyes locked on Armin, who remained seated by the pool. Armin did not look worried. His calm face confused the families around him. Some wondered why he did not explain himself. Others thought maybe he was hiding something. But Armin knew the truth would reveal itself soon. After 15 minutes, the sound of sirens echoed from the street nearby. 2 police officers walked toward the pool area. Everyone grew tense. Karen straightened her back and raised her voice. "Officers, thank you for coming," she said quickly. "This man refuses to leave the pool. He is trespassing on HOA property." The officers looked at Armin. One of them, Officer Malik, stepped closer. "Sir, can we speak with you?" Armin nodded and stood up slowly. He greeted the officers politely. "Of course," he said. Karen spoke again, louder this time. "He has no right to be here. This pool was never approved. He is disturbing the community." The second officer, Officer Reed, raised a hand. "Ma'am, please let us handle this." The crowd around the pool remained silent. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Officer Malik turned to Armin. "Do you live in this community?" "Yes," Armin replied calmly. "I live in the house near the north side of the lake." "And why are you here today?" Malik asked. "I am checking the water system," Armin said. Karen interrupted quickly. "You see? He admits it. He is tampering with the property. He should not even be touching the water system." Armin looked at her, then back at the officers. "Would you like to see the documents?" he asked quietly. Both officers raised their eyebrows. "Documents?" Reed asked. "Yes," Armin replied. "I have ownership papers, construction permits, and approval from the county office. This pool is not illegal. It belongs to me. I built it." The crowd gasped. Even the children's eyes widened. Parents exchanged shocked looks. They had always assumed the pool was a community project. Nobody had ever imagined it was built by one man alone. Karen's face twisted in disbelief. "That is impossible," she said firmly. "No one builds a pool of this size without HOA approval." Armin remained calm. "I did. The land is private, attached to my property. I followed every rule of the county, and I used my own money. No HOA approval was required." The officers exchanged glances. Malik said, "Sir, do you have the documents with you?" "Yes," Armin answered. "They are in my house. I can show them to you now." Karen folded her arms tightly. "Don't believe him. He is lying. People like him think they can break rules and get away with it." The officers ignored her and asked Armin to lead the way. He walked toward his house, with both officers following. Curious neighbors trailed behind, whispering in low voices. Karen followed too, fuming with anger. Inside his house, Armin opened a drawer and took out a folder. He handed it to Officer Malik. The folder contained stamped documents, land papers, construction permits, and approval letters from the county office. Everything was clear and official. Malik studied the papers carefully. Reed leaned over to read as well. After a few minutes, they both nodded. "Everything looks correct," Malik said. "Sir, you are the legal owner and builder. There is no violation here." The neighbors standing near the door murmured in surprise. Some smiled with relief. They felt proud knowing the pool was not only safe but also created by someone living among them. Karen, however, refused to accept it. "This cannot be," she said loudly. "The HOA should have the final word. He cannot just build whatever he wants." Reed looked at her firmly. "Ma'am, this property is not under HOA control. The land belongs to him. The pool is legal. There is no trespassing here." Karen's face turned red. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. She had no answer. The officers handed the folder back to Armin. Malik gave a small smile. "Sir, you have done good work. This place seems to bring happiness to many families. We see no problem here." Armin nodded politely. "Thank you, officers." The police left soon after, their work complete. The neighbors followed them out, some patting Armin on the shoulder and thanking him. Karen stayed behind for a moment, her anger boiling inside. She glared at Armin and whispered, "This is not over." Armin simply placed the folder back in his drawer. He knew the battle with Karen had only just begun. Outside, the pool sparkled under the sunlight, as if waiting for the next chapter of the story to unfold. The pool returned to its normal lively rhythm the next day. Children splashed in the clear water, parents sat on the deck with cool drinks, and neighbors laughed together. The tension from the police visit had faded, and the pool once again became the heart of the community. But not for Karen. She sat in her house, staring at her clipboard, angry and restless. In her eyes, rules were being broken. She could not accept that Armin had built the pool without her approval. She believed the HOA was the highest authority in Lakeview, and she would not allow someone to ignore it. "This man thinks he can outsmart me," she muttered to herself. "But I will show him what happens when rules are ignored." She began writing notes, planning her next move. Karen decided she would rally other HOA board members against Armin. If she could convince them that the pool was a threat to property values or safety, they would pressure him to close it down. The next evening, she held a small meeting at her house. 3 other HOA board members arrived, curious about her urgent invitation. They sat around her dining table, sipping tea, while Karen spread papers and photos across the surface. "Look at this," she said, pointing at a picture of the pool filled with children. "Unsupervised swimming. No lifeguards. No safety ropes. What if a child gets hurt? Who will be responsible? The HOA will be blamed." One board member, an older man named Harris, frowned. "But I heard he built it legally. Even the police confirmed it." Karen waved her hand impatiently. "Legal or not, it's unsafe. And look how many people gather there. Noise, traffic, litter. Soon our quiet community will become a playground. Do we want that?" The others exchanged uncertain looks. Another member, a woman named Ruth, spoke softly. But the families seem happy. I walked by yesterday, and everyone was enjoying themselves. It felt nice. Karen's eyes narrowed. Happiness does not change rules. We must think long-term. Property values will fall if this continues. We have to stop him. After an hour of heated discussion, Karen managed to plant seeds of doubt in their minds. Though not everyone agreed with her, they promised to look into it. For Karen, this was enough. Meanwhile, Armin was unaware of the storm building against him. He was at the pool, checking the fountain system. A group of children ran up to him, laughing. "Thank you for building this place," one shouted. Their smiles filled him with quiet pride. Later, a neighbor named Sana approached him. "You know, many of us never realized how much we needed this pool until you built it," she said warmly. "It has brought the community together." Armin smiled. That was always the hope. But his peaceful moment did not last long. The next morning, he found a letter in his mailbox. It was stamped with the HOA logo. The letter accused him of creating a public nuisance and demanded that he shut down the pool within 30 days. Armin read it twice, then folded it neatly. He was not surprised. He knew Karen would not give up so easily. That evening, he attended the HOA's open meeting. The room was filled with residents, curious about the letter many of them had also heard about. Karen sat at the front, her expression sharp, her papers stacked neatly. "As board members," she began, "we must protect our community. This pool, though built legally, has caused noise, risk, and disruption. It is not in the spirit of Lakeview rules. Therefore, I move to have it closed." A murmur spread through the room. Some people nodded in agreement, but many shook their heads. Parents who used the pool looked upset. Children clutched their parents' hands tightly. Armin stood slowly. His calm voice filled the room. "Friends, I did not build this pool for myself. I built it for all of us. I followed the law. I spent my own time and money. And I see every day how much joy it brings to families. If this is truly a problem, then tell me what harm has it caused?" There was silence for a moment. Then a father in the back raised his hand. "My children never had a safe place to swim before. Now they do. I support this pool." Others began to speak as well. "We love it. It brings us together. Don't take it away." Karen slammed her hand on the table. "This is not about feelings. This is about rules." But her voice was drowned out by the rising support for Armin. One after another, neighbors stood up, defending him and the pool. Even board member Ruth finally said, "Maybe this is what our community needed. Rules should protect people, not take away their happiness." Karen's face grew tight with frustration. The meeting ended with no clear decision, but it was obvious that the community was on Armin's side. As he walked home that night, Armin knew one thing for sure. Karen would not stop here. She would try again, with a new plan, sharper than before. And he would be ready. Karen did not sleep much after the HOA meeting. The loud support for Armin had shaken her, but she refused to give up. In her mind, if rules failed, then pressure and official inspections would succeed. She believed that if she found even the smallest problem, she could shut down the pool for good. The very next week, she began making phone calls. She contacted the county office, the health department, and even the fire safety division. "There is a dangerous pool in our neighborhood," she said firmly each time. "Someone must come inspect it before something terrible happens." At first, The offices were slow to respond. But Karen kept calling, sending letters, and forwarding photos she had taken of the pool. After days of persistence, she finally got what she wanted. A team from the health department agreed to visit Lakeview and check the pool. News spread quickly through the community. Families who loved the pool grew worried. What if they close it? One mother asked. My children will be heartbroken. Others whispered that Karen was behind it. Some wanted to confront her, but Armin advised patience. Let them come, he said calmly. The pool was built with care. Everything is safe. We have nothing to fear. On the inspection day, 2 officials arrived in a white van. They carried clipboards and equipment, ready to test the water and check safety standards. Karen followed close behind, smiling as if victory was near. Armin greeted the officials politely. Please, take your time, he said. He answered their questions with respect, showed them the filtration system, and explained how he maintained the water. The officials measured the chlorine levels, inspected the deck, and even checked the drainage system. Neighbors gathered nearby, watching with anxious eyes. Children stood in groups, holding their swim towels, hoping the pool would not be taken from them. After 2 hours, the inspection was complete. The officials called Armin aside and spoke in low voices. Karen leaned closer, eager to hear. Finally, one of them cleared his throat and addressed the crowd. This pool meets all health and safety requirements, he announced. The water is clean, the system is functional, and the design is secure. We see no reason to shut it down. The crowd cheered loudly. Children clapped, parents smiled, and even elders nodded in approval. Karen's smile disappeared. She turned pale, gripping her clipboard tightly. Armin thanked the officials. I appreciate your visit. Safety is important for all of us. The officials left, satisfied, while the families celebrated by jumping into the pool again. But Karen stood frozen, her plan defeated. That evening, she wrote angry notes in her diary. They don't understand, she scribbled. He makes me look weak. If I don't win, everyone will forget who keeps order in this community. Her frustration turned into a new idea. If official inspections could not stop him, perhaps financial pressure could. She started contacting lawyers and reading HOA rules more carefully. Somewhere, she believed, there had to be a way to demand fees or fines. Days later, Armin received another letter. This time, it was not about shutting down the pool but about money. The HOA demanded a community usage fee for every family that visited the pool. Karen had convinced some board members to approve the demand, claiming that since the pool attracted residents, the HOA deserved a share. Neighbors were furious. Why should we pay? A father argued. This is Armin's property. He built it, not the HOA. Armin read the letter calmly and smiled. They cannot take what is not theirs, he said. This pool is free for everyone. I will not charge you, and I will not let them charge you. The families applauded his words, but Karen was not finished. She appeared at the pool the next afternoon, walking firmly toward Armin. You think you are clever, she said, her voice sharp. But the HOA has rights. If people use your pool, then fees must be collected. Armin looked at her steadily. This pool is on my private property. The HOA has no claim here. Families come as my guests. They pay nothing. Karen's eyes burned with anger. Then I will take this to court, she threatened. Armin remained calm. Do what you must, he said. But remember, the community stands with me. Around them, neighbors nodded in agreement. Parents placed their hands on Armin's shoulder. Children smiled at him with gratitude. Karen saw it all, and it made her feel cornered. She walked away quickly, her footsteps echoing on the wooden deck. But in her mind, another plan was already forming. If legal threats failed, she would need something stronger, something bold. Armin watched her leave, knowing the battle was far from over. He looked at the shining water of the pool and thought of the joy it brought. For him, this was never about fighting. It was about protecting what he had built with love. And for Karen, it was no longer about rules. It was about pride. Weeks passed, and the pool remained as lively as ever. Children swam joyfully, parents shared laughter, and neighbors felt closer than before. For many, the pool had become more than just a place to swim. It was now the heart of the community. But Karen's pride would not let her accept defeat. Each night, she studied HOA documents, searching for a way to control Armin's creation. Finally, she decided on her boldest move yet. She filed a lawsuit, claiming that Armin's pool created unfair use of community resources and violated spirit of HOA guidelines. When the notice arrived at Armin's house, he read it slowly. The lawsuit demanded that the court order the pool closed and that Armin pay heavy fines. Armin sighed. He had expected this. He knew Karen would go this far. Still, he was not afraid. He gathered his documents, receipts, and permits, placing them neatly in a folder. Then he called a lawyer, a calm man named Asher, who agreed to represent him. The news spread quickly across Lakeview. Some residents were shocked. A lawsuit? That's too much, they said. Others shook their heads at Karen's stubbornness. Parents gathered around Armin, offering support. "We'll come to court with you," they promised. "You are not alone." The day of the hearing arrived. The courtroom was full. On one side sat Karen with her lawyer, her eyes sharp and filled with determination. On the other side sat Armin, calm as ever, with Asher by his side. Behind him, rows of neighbors had gathered, filling the seats with quiet support. The judge, an older woman with kind but firm eyes, entered the room and began the session. Karen's lawyer stood first. He spoke loudly about rules, order, and the power of the HOA. He painted the pool as a dangerous project that threatened the balance of the community. "Your Honor," he said, "this pool may appear safe, but it creates risks, noise, and gatherings that the HOA did not approve. If every resident did as he pleased, the community would fall into chaos. We demand that this unlawful pool be removed." Karen nodded sharply, satisfied with his words. Then Asher stood. He spoke with steady confidence. "Your Honor, the land where the pool sits belongs to my client. He followed every county regulation, secured every permit, and built the pool with his own funds. This is not an unlawful structure. It is a legal, safe, and generous gift to the community. The HOA has no authority over private property that does not fall under their mapped jurisdiction." He handed the judge the folder filled with documents. The judge examined them carefully, flipping through the stamped approvals and permits. Karen's lawyer tried to argue again, saying the HOA had spiritual authority over the community. But the judge raised her hand. "Authority must be based on law, not spirit," she said firmly. At that moment, something powerful happened. One by one, neighbors stood up. A father spoke first. "Your Honor, this pool gave our children a safe place to swim. We never had that before." A mother added, it brought us together as families. We share evenings here. We feel like a real community now. An elderly woman, her voice soft but clear, said, "I come to watch the sunset by the pool. It has healed my loneliness." The judge listened patiently as more voices rose, all praising Armin and the pool. The courtroom echoed with sincerity. Finally, the judge leaned back in her chair. She looked at Karen. "The court finds no legal basis for this complaint. The pool is lawful, and the HOA has no claim over it. Case dismissed." The room burst into applause. Children clapped, parents cheered softly, and Armin simply nodded with relief. Karen sat frozen, her face pale with disbelief. For the first time, she had truly lost. As the neighbors left the courtroom, many thanked Armin, some shaking his hand warmly. "You fought not just for yourself, but for all of us," they said. Outside the building, Karen stood alone. Her clipboard hung loosely at her side. She had fought with rules, inspections, and now the court, but nothing had worked. Still, her pride whispered inside her heart, refusing to let go. "This is not the end," she muttered to herself. "There must be another way." Armin, walking home with his neighbors, felt peace. Yet he also knew Karen's spirit. She would not disappear quietly. Another challenge was sure to come. For now, though, the pool remained open, shining brightly under the afternoon sun, stronger than ever before. The weeks after the court case were filled with joy. Families felt free again, without the fear of losing the pool. Every evening, children splashed happily while parents sat on the deck, chatting in the golden light of sunset. The pool had not only survived, it had become a symbol of unity. One evening, a neighbor named Imran suggested something new. "Why don't we celebrate? Let's hold a small festival here at the pool. Music, food, games for the children, it would be wonderful." Everyone loved the idea. Within days, preparations began. Families decorated the deck with colorful lanterns. Children painted banners. Mothers planned food stalls, and fathers arranged chairs and tables. Armin quietly worked on setting up extra lights around the pool so the festival could continue after dark. When the festival day arrived, the entire community gathered. The air smelled of fresh food. Music played softly, and laughter filled the atmosphere. The pool sparkled under the evening sky, reflecting the lights strung across the deck. Armin stood near the fountain, watching with quiet pride. It was everything he had hoped for when he built the pool, a place of joy and togetherness. But far away, Karen sat in her house, staring out her window. She could hear the distant laughter, the music, and the cheers. Each sound felt like a reminder of her defeat. Her face tightened as she muttered, "They think they've won. They think this place belongs to them. But I won't let this end here." Despite her anger, she could not stop the festival. Families were too united now. So she decided on another plan, one that would attack not with rules or law, but with fear. Meanwhile, the festival grew brighter. Children played water games, their laughter echoing into the night. Elders clapped along with the music, and families shared food from long tables. Neighbors who had barely spoken to each other before were now talking like old friends. At one point, Imran raised his voice and called for silence. "Friends," he said, "let us take a moment to thank the man who made this possible. Without him, none of this joy would exist." He gestured toward Armin. The crowd erupted in cheers. Children shouted his name, and parents applauded. Armin raised his hand gently, signaling for quiet. "I built the pool," he said humbly, but the true builders are all of you. You brought your laughter, your warmth, and your trust. A place is nothing without people. This pool belongs to the community because you have filled it with life. His words touched many hearts. Neighbors nodded, smiling warmly. Some even wiped tears from their eyes. For them, Erman was not just a man who built a pool. He was the heart of Lakeview now. But even as the festival continued with joy, Karen was moving quietly. She had contacted a private security company earlier in the week, telling them the pool area was out of control and needed monitoring. That night, as families celebrated, she made her final call. 2 black vehicles rolled into the community, headlights cutting through the dark. Security officers stepped out, their uniforms neat and their expressions serious. Families froze when they saw them approach. The music stopped, and whispers filled the air. Karen walked behind them, her arms crossed, a triumphant look on her face. "This is over," she declared. "The HOA has hired security to shut this down." Children clung to their parents. Some people looked angry, others worried. The beautiful night was suddenly heavy with tension. Armin stepped forward, calm as always. He greeted the security officers politely. "Good evening. May I ask why you are here?" One of them replied, "We received a report that this gathering is unauthorized and unsafe." Karen smiled proudly. "Yes, that's correct. This entire event is against the rules. Shut it down." The officers looked uncertain. "We will need to speak with the property owner first." Armin raised his hand. "That would be me," he said firmly. "This pool and the land it sits on are mine. These families are my guests. Everything here is lawful." The officers blinked in surprise. They glanced at Karen, then back at Armin. "Is that true?" "Yes," Armin said, pulling a copy of his property papers from a folder he had prepared. He had learned by now to always keep documents ready. The officers read them quickly, then nodded. "This is valid. We cannot interfere." The neighbors cheered softly, their relief spreading through the crowd. Karen's face turned red with frustration. She had expected victory, but once again, the truth was against her. The officers turned to her. "Ma'am, we cannot act here. Please do not misuse our services again." With that, they returned to their vehicles and drove away. The festival resumed, louder than before, as if the families wanted to erase the tension with joy. Music returned, laughter grew stronger, and children jumped into the pool again. Karen, however, stormed away into the night. Her pride was wounded, her plans broken. But deep inside, she whispered to herself, "I will find a way. I will not stop until he is gone." Armin watched her leave, then turned back to his neighbors. For him, the night was not about Karen's defeat. It was about the strength of the community. And he knew, as long as they stood together, no one could take the pool away. The next morning, Lakeview woke to a quiet sun and a gentle breeze. After the festival, the community felt closer than ever. Children ran to the pool as usual, laughing, while parents settled on chairs, sipping coffee and enjoying the calm water. The joy from the night before had carried into the new day. Armin arrived at the pool early. He checked the water, ensuring the filtration system was working perfectly. Everything was clean, safe, and ready for the families. As he stood on the deck, he noticed how peaceful it looked. The pool had become a symbol of something bigger than himself, a place where neighbors connected, shared stories, and cared for each other. Karen, however, was nowhere in sight. Her previous attempts had failed court, inspections, security, and she had lost the support of the community. She sat at home, frustrated, but still planning. Yet even she could not deny the happiness surrounding the pool. By mid-morning, neighbors began arriving in groups. Some brought picnic baskets, others came with toys for children. Everyone greeted Armin warmly, offering smiles and thanks. He waved humbly, enjoying the simple joy around him. One of the parents, Sana, approached him. "Armin, the children have never been this happy before. And even the adults enjoy sitting here. You have changed this neighborhood for the better." Armin smiled. "I only built a pool. You all made it a community." A little boy named Ali ran up to him, holding a toy boat. "Can we have a small race in the pool?" he asked eagerly. "Of course," Armin said, laughing. He helped the children set up the boats and cheered as they floated across the water. The laughter and excitement reminded him why he had spent months building the pool. Meanwhile, Karen walked by the edge of the lake, watching from a distance. She did not speak to anyone. She realized that no amount of rules, inspections, or lawsuits could undo the happiness that had grown here. The pool was more than stone, water, and wood. It was life, energy, and togetherness. Later in the afternoon, Armin called a small meeting by the pool. Families gathered, curious about what he wanted to say. "I have been thinking," he began, "this pool is ours, but it is also a responsibility. I built it for everyone to enjoy safely. Let's work together to keep it clean, organized, and welcoming. We can have a small committee to take care of it and make decisions together. That way, everyone shares in the joy and responsibility." The neighbors nodded in agreement. Some smiled, others laughed softly. Everyone appreciated the idea. Even families who had rarely spoken to each other promised to help. Armin continued, "Rules are important, but so is respect. Respect for this place, for each other, and for the effort it took to build it. If we do that, no one can take it away from us." The families clapped. Children cheered. The air was filled with a renewed sense of unity. For the first time, the pool felt not only like Armin's creation but like a shared home for everyone. As the sun began to set, Armin looked around. Karen had not appeared. He knew she might still be planning something, but her influence was limited. The community had chosen joy and togetherness over rules and conflict. That evening, as the water reflected the pink and orange sky, families sat by the deck, sharing food and stories. Children swam under the fading light, their laughter echoing across the lake. The air was calm, warm, and filled with gratitude. Armin stood quietly, watching. He felt a deep sense of peace. All his efforts, all the work, all the challenges had led to this moment. A community united by kindness, trust, and simple joy. And somewhere in the distance, Karen watched, realizing that the pool and the community around it could not be controlled by anger or rules. It was built with care, love, and patience, and those things could not be taken away. As night fell, the pool glimmered under the stars. Families waved goodbye, children sleepy but happy, parents smiling. Armin finally sat on the deck, resting his hands in his lap. He knew that challenges might come again, but for now, harmony had returned. The pool was safe, the community was strong, and joy had won. And in that moment, Armin realized something important. Sometimes, building something beautiful is more powerful than fighting over rules. Lakeview had found its heart, and it would beat here, by the pool, for years to come.